Right now, you're sitting on something solid, maybe a chair, maybe a bench. You can feel it beneath you, firm, unyielding, real. Press your hand against the table in front of you. It pushes back, it resists, it's there. Now here's the question that should make you uncomfortable. Why? And I don't mean, why does the chair exist? I mean, why does it feel solid? Why can't your hand just pass through it? After all, we've known for over a century that the atoms making up your hand and the atoms making up that table are almost entirely empty space. If you took all the actual matter in a human body and compressed it, removing all that empty space, you'd end up with something smaller than a grain of sand. The nucleus of an atom is impossibly tiny compared to the cloud of electrons around it. If an atom were the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be a marble at the center. So, when you press your hand against a table, you're pressing emptiness against emptiness. Then why doesn't your hand just slide through? Stop and think about this. Really think about it. Two clouds of mostly empty space should just interpenetrate, pass through each other like ghosts. But they don't, ever. In your entire life, you've never pushed your hand through a solid object. Not once. Most people, if they think about this at all, mumble something about atoms touching or bumping into each other. But that's not what's happening. In fact, that explanation is so wrong, it's not even in the same universe as the truth. Richard Feynman, Nobel laureate, one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century, legendary teacher, was asked about this exact puzzle. And his answer doesn't just challenge common sense, it obliterates it. Let me show you what's actually going on, and I promise you, by the end of this, the floor beneath your feet will feel like something entirely different. Let's start with something concrete. I want you to imagine two magnets, not the weak refrigerator kind, powerful neodymium magnets. Take them in your hands and try to push the north pole of one into the north pole of the other. You can't. They repel. No matter how hard you push, there's an invisible force pushing back. The magnets never actually touch, but you feel resistance. It's not that they're solid in the traditional sense. It's that there's a force field between them, an electromagnetic field that creates a barrier of repulsion. Now hold on to that feeling, that sensation of resistance without contact, because that's exactly what you're feeling when you sit in a chair. When you press your hand against a wall, when you walk across the floor, you're not feeling solidity, you're feeling electromagnetic repulsion. The chair isn't holding you up because it's solid. It's holding you up because the electrons in the atoms of your body and the electrons in the atoms of the chair are repelling each other with such incredible force that they refuse to occupy the same space. But here's where it gets strange. Why do electrons repel? The easy answer is, like charges repel. Electrons are negatively charged, and negative charges push each other away. That's true, that's electromagnetic force, but that's not the whole story, because if that were the only thing going on, matter wouldn't behave the way it does. There's something else, something deeper, something that Feynman understood better than almost anyone. And it has to do with one of the strangest principles in all of physics, the Pauli exclusion principle. Here's the thing about electrons. They're not just negatively charged particles bouncing around like tiny billiard balls. They're quantum objects, and quantum objects obey rules that have no classical analog, no everyday comparison that makes intuitive sense. Electrons are what we call fermions, and fermions follow a law that seems arbitrary, almost absurd. No two identical fermions can occupy the same quantum state at the same time. Read that again. It's not that it's difficult for two electrons to be in the same state. It's not that they prefer not to. It's that the universe forbids it. Absolutely, completely. No exceptions. This is the Pauli exclusion principle, named after Wolfgang Pauli, who discovered it in 1925. And it's not a force. It's not electromagnetic repulsion. It's a different kind of constraint entirely. A rule woven into the mathematical structure of quantum mechanics itself. Now, what does this mean in practice? When two atoms get close to each other, their electron clouds begin to overlap. The electrons are waves, not particles with definite positions, so their wave functions start to intermingle. And here's the key. If those electrons were allowed to occupy the same quantum state, they would collapse into the same spatial region. They would merge, but they can't. The exclusion principle says no. So instead, the electrons are forced into higher energy states. They have to spread out, they have to resist. And that resistance, that quantum pressure preventing overlap, is what you feel as solidity. Feynman called this exchange interaction, and it's fantastically powerful. The force you feel when you press on a table is, in a very real sense, the manifestation of the Pauli exclusion principle, the universe's refusal to let identical fermions share the same quantum state. Think about that. The reason you don't fall through the floor has nothing to do with particles bumping into each other. It's because of a quantum rule about identity and indistinguishability. But let's dig deeper, because now you might be wondering, why does the Pauli exclusion principle exist in the first place? And here we enter the territory where physics becomes almost mystical, where the why questions start bumping up against the limits of what we can explain. The Pauli exclusion principle arises from something called the spin statistics theorem, one of the most profound results in quantum field theory. It turns out that particles come in two types: fermions, like electrons, protons, neutrons, and bosons, like photons, gluons, the Higgs boson. Fermions have half-integer spin, spin 1, 2, spin 3, 2, and so on. Bosons have integer spin, spin 0, spin 1, spin 2. And here's the kicker. The spin statistics theorem proves, mathematically, rigorously, that particles with half-integer spin must obey the exclusion principle. It's not optional. It's not a coincidence. It falls directly out of the mathematics of quantum field theory and special relativity. In other words, the exclusion principle exists because of the deep connection between spin, quantum mechanics, and the structure of space-time itself. Feynman knew this. He helped develop quantum electrodynamics, QED, the theory that describes how light and matter interact at the quantum level. And when people asked him why the exclusion principle works the way it does, he would sometimes give his famous response, "I'm not going to explain it to you. I'm going to tell you how nature works." Because at a certain point, the why questions bottom out. We can trace the exclusion principle back to spin, and spin back to the structure of quantum field theory, and quantum field theory back to the symmetries of space-time. But eventually, you reach bedrock, fundamental laws that simply are. And one of those laws is this: identical fermions cannot be in the same state, period. That's not a mechanism. That's not a force pushing them apart. It's a constraint on reality itself. Now let's zoom out and look at what this means psychologically. Why does this feel so bizarre to us? Because our brains didn't evolve to understand quantum mechanics. They evolved to throw spears, recognize faces, and avoid predators. We live in a macroscopic world where objects have definite positions, where cause and effect are intuitive, where things either touch or they don't. We have a folk physics built into our cognition, and that folk physics tells us solid things are solid because they're made of stuff, matter, substance, things that are there. But the truth is the opposite. Solidity is not a property of stuff. It's a property of relationships. It's the emergent result of quantum rules governing how particles behave when they get close. Feynman understood this better than most. He once said that if you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics, because it's so fundamentally alien to our everyday experience that true understanding requires you to abandon your intuitions entirely. And yet, here's the beautiful part: we can still describe it, we can still calculate it, we can still predict with astonishing precision exactly how matter will behave. The Schrödinger equation, which governs the behavior of quantum systems, allows us to compute the energy states of electrons in atoms. The solutions to that equation, the wave functions, tell us where electrons are likely to be found, and when you solve that equation for multiple electrons, the Pauli exclusion principle automatically emerges from the mathematics. You don't have to put it in by hand. It's already there, baked into the structure of the theory. This is the power of physics. Even when something defies intuition, even when it shatters common sense, we can still know it. We can still understand it on a deeper level. Let me give you some numbers to make this concrete. The electromagnetic force between two electrons at a typical atomic distance, say about 0.1 nanometers, is absolutely enormous by everyday standards. We're talking about forces on the order of 10 to the power 8 newtons. That sounds tiny. But remember, electrons are ridiculously light. The force-to-mass ratio is colossal. Now, when you press your hand on a table, you're dealing with roughly 10 to the 23 atoms in the contact area. That's 100 billion trillion atoms, each with electrons pushing back against the electrons in your hand. The combined effect creates what we perceive as solid resistance. But it's not just electromagnetic repulsion. The Pauli exclusion principle contributes something called degeneracy pressure. This is the pressure that arises purely from the fact that electrons can't be squeezed into the same state. And degeneracy pressure is responsible for some of the most extreme phenomena in the universe. When a star runs out of fuel and collapses, gravity tries to crush all the matter into a single point, but the electrons resist. The exclusion principle creates a pressure that holds the star up, even without any thermal energy. This creates a white dwarf, a star held up purely by quantum mechanics. If the star is massive enough, even electron degeneracy pressure isn't enough. The star collapses further, crushing electrons and protons together to form neutrons. And then neutron degeneracy pressure takes over, creating a neutron star, an object so dense that a sugar cube-sized chunk would weigh as much as all of humanity. And if the star is still more massive, even neutron degeneracy pressure fails. The star collapses into a black hole. The same quantum principle that keeps you from falling through your chair is the only thing preventing certain stars from collapsing into oblivion. Think about that. The solidity of matter and the structure of collapsed stars are two sides of the same coin. Let's go even deeper, because the exclusion principle doesn't just explain why matter is solid, it explains why matter exists in the form that it does. Without the exclusion principle, all the electrons in an atom would collapse into the lowest energy state, the ground state. Every electron would pile into the one's orbital, the closest orbit to the nucleus, but they can't. The exclusion principle forces them to fill up higher and higher energy levels. This creates the electron shell structure of atoms, and that shell structure is responsible for chemistry. The periodic table, the organization of elements by chemical properties, is a direct consequence of the Pauli exclusion principle. The reason carbon behaves differently from oxygen, the reason sodium reacts violently with water, the reason gold is inert and shiny, all of this comes down to how electrons are forced to arrange themselves in atoms. In other words, the exclusion principle is the reason chemistry exists. It's the reason molecules form. It's the reason complex structures can build up layer upon layer to create proteins, cells, organisms, brains. It's the reason you exist. Without the Pauli exclusion principle, the universe would be a thin soup of atoms with no structure, no chemistry, no life, just a formless haze. But the principle exists, and because it exists, the universe has texture, complexity, organization. Solidity is not a bug, it's a feature. Now let's address the elephant in the room. You might be thinking, okay, but I still don't really understand why the exclusion principle exists. Why is it a law? Who decided? And here's where we hit the boundary of science, because at some point explanation has to stop. Physics can trace every phenomenon back to more fundamental laws, but eventually you reach the axioms, the bedrock assumptions upon which everything else rests. The Pauli exclusion principle is one of those axioms, or rather, it's a consequence of deeper axioms. The structure of quantum field theory, the symmetries of space-time, the connection between spin and statistics. Feynman was deeply aware of this. He knew that at the bottom of every Y chain, you find something that simply is. And the mark of a good physicist is knowing when you've reached that point, when further whys aren't productive because you're asking for an explanation outside the framework of the theory. But here's the thing. Even if we can't explain why the exclusion principle exists in some ultimate metaphysical sense, we can still marvel at what it does. We can still appreciate the incredible chain of consequences that flows from this one simple rule, from the stability of atoms to the chemistry of life, from the resistance of matter to the structure of stars, from the floor beneath your feet to the fusion in the sun. All of it connected, all of it arising from a single quantum constraint. So let's bring this full circle. When you sit in a chair, you're not resting on solid matter. You're hovering, suspended a tiny fraction of a nanometer above the surface, held up by the electromagnetic repulsion of electron clouds and the quantum pressure of the Pauli exclusion principle. You are floating, always, on a cushion of forces and fields and quantum rules. And the crazy thing is, this is true for every object in the universe. Nothing ever really touches anything else. Not in the way we imagine. There is no contact, no merging, no coalescence of matter. There is only repulsion, only resistance, only the universe enforcing its rules. Feynman understood this. He understood that the solidity of matter is not a fundamental property. It's an emergent phenomenon, a consequence of deeper laws. And he understood something else too, that the universe is far stranger, far more beautiful, and far more subtle than our common sense could ever imagine. We live in a world where solid is an illusion, where empty space pushes back, where quantum rules written in the language of mathematics govern the behavior of every atom, every electron, every particle. And yet somehow we've managed to decode those rules, to understand them, to predict their consequences with breathtaking precision. That's the real miracle. Not that the world is strange, but that we've learned to comprehend its strangeness. That we can take something as mundane as sitting in a chair and trace it back through electromagnetic theory, quantum mechanics, and the structure of space-time itself. Feynman once said, "Physics is like sex. Sure, it may give some practical results, but that's not why we do it. We do it because it's fascinating, because every answer reveals 10 new questions, because the deeper you look, the more astonishing reality becomes." So the next time you press your hand against a table, stop for a moment, feel the resistance. That's not solidity, that's the electromagnetic force and the Pauli exclusion principle working together to keep two clouds of probability from occupying the same quantum state. That's the universe saying, no, you cannot pass. And that simple no, that quantum constraint, is the reason you have a body, a brain, a world to explore, the reason you exist at all. Reality doesn't feel solid because it is solid. It feels solid because the fundamental laws of quantum mechanics make it impossible for matter to behave any other way. And once you understand that, really understand it, the ground beneath your feet transforms. It's no longer just a surface. It's a manifestation of the deepest laws of physics. A reminder that the universe is not what it seems, that the ordinary is extraordinary, that the familiar is profoundly, beautifully strange. And that's Feynman's answer. Not just an explanation, but an invitation. An invitation to see the world as it truly is. A quantum dance of fields and forces, particles and probabilities, all obeying rules so elegant, so precise, that they allow matter to resist, to push back, to create the illusion we call solidity. Welcome to reality. It's weirder than you think and infinitely more wonderful.